Welcome back. Now for what's tipping the scales of justice. New reports show that a little girl told police that she was being abused and tortured by her father and his girlfriend, only to be returned to them. 9 months later, 10-year-old Rebekah Baptiste, this little angel you see here, was found on the side of an Arizona road, beaten and starving. She later died from her injuries. Police reports indicate that she had escaped her father's apartment once when she was 9 years old, and she ran to a gas station. She tried to get help from a homeless person and a gas station employee. Police and Child Protective Services got involved, but then they sent her back to her father, Richard Baptiste, and his girlfriend because of some conflicting stories they say that the child was telling. Here's some body camera footage right after Rebekah was found.
And she's been running away for the last 3 or 4 weeks since we've been here. She ran away this morning. We went out and tried to find her, and our neighbor found her. Like she was just breathing on her own.
Breathing on her own?
But that was about it. And then as we were driving this way, started seeing color change in her lips, and we were just hauling it.
Walk me through what happened today.
We were outside starting the morning. Before I can get waters in the bottles, she went running off again.
So both Richard Baptiste and Anisha Woods are charged with first-degree murder, with aggravated assault, with child abuse, and kidnapping. They're going to be in court this month. Their trials are scheduled for June. This case makes me nauseated. Let's talk about how badly this child was failed. Let's bring in Randy Kessler and Rick Grundy for some insight. Randy, I want to begin with you here, please. Your thoughts hearing that this child actually had the wherewithal to report that she was being abused at 9 years old, only to be sent back to the home to be clearly abused some more, and then is killed.
It's so upsetting. I mean, usually I'm the one defending, to some degree, CPS, Child Protective Services. They're always underpaid, underfunded, overworked. You know, they can't win, right? If the parent loses a child and the parent's innocent and they take the child away, then the parents and the child suffer. So, you know, how do you solve this? And I always want to give a little bit of leeway, but this was so over the top, so many signs, so many indicators. The fact that nobody caught it, even if the system didn't work, somebody in the system doesn't have to follow orders. You can say this one is an anomaly. There were so many signs. What a tragedy. I mean, all these cases are tragic. This was, you know, near the top of the list of all the ones that we've covered together.
Yeah, Randy, you're so right. I want to show you what Rebekah told police. Said that Anisha Woods, her stepmom, would make her run laps as punishment, would hit her with a belt on her feet, would hit her hands with a brush. So that's what she said when she made that report about a year before her death. When she was found unresponsive, the injuries noted were injuries of physical trauma, an apparent beating. Sexual abuse was noted. She was very malnourished. She had damaged, missing toenails and burn marks on her back that looked to be consistent with cigarette burns, according to police. And one doctor described her injuries as torture. Rick Grundy, talk to me, please, about this prosecution and what you think is appropriate for these parents.
Well, unfortunately, we're again here discussing the same thing that we were last week with the arraignment of Miss Buzzard for the death of her daughter, Melody, not far removed from the horrifying trial for the death of Harmony Montgomery in New Hampshire. We see this throughout the country. I echo Randy's feelings with respect to the people in child services, but it is a monumental failure across the board and across the nation. The commonality of those three cases is that each of these children and every parental aspect they had in their life was under the investigation of those that are charged with protecting these children. It is not the individuals within the child services that are responsible for this. It is the system itself. It's the legislators, it's the judiciary that put these children back in control of these parents with little oversight by a underfunded, undermanned system. And my feeling with respect to these is you go after, it's a first-degree murder of the most atrocious manner possible to a truly defenseless individual. Max them out.
Yes, Rick. Randy, I think what breaks my heart so badly with this one, and believe me, my heart's breaking for all these kids in these cases. You noted a few of them, Rick, that are near and dear to my heart as well. This child managed to escape. It kind of made me think of Ruby Frankie's son who escaped, and that was how the whole house of cards came down. This child got out. I think that's what kills me. What do you say about that aspect of this, Randy?
I couldn't agree more, right? You finally have a child who has the courage, the determination to climb through a window, to get out, to tell somebody, despite the threats that if you tell anybody, she was threatened that if she told anybody what was happening, they would punish her, that she did that, and it didn't work. I mean, that's the 1 in a million that gets out and saves herself, and becomes a spokesperson and an advocate for all other children like that as she grows up. Didn't have that chance. She could have been a shining light. She could have been an example, should have been, of how to handle it, how to get out, and how to fix it. And, Good Samaritans aside, at least the lady in the QT station called the police. I don't know who dropped the ball. The police, CPS, seems like everybody dropped the ball on this poor little girl.
Mm-hmm. And Randy, appreciate you pointing out that bright spot that, God bless that gas station worker, the homeless person, the people that tried to help her when she was clearly in distress and made the call. And, at that point, what more can they do? Nothing. They make the call, you report it, and we'll see what happens as the evidence comes out as to where the ball was dropped, by whom it was dropped, this poor child. Rick, quickly, I just have about 30 seconds. You think these two are going to stay co-defendants, or you think somebody might roll on somebody?
That's always a tough call. My guess, I guess, maybe somewhat of an educated guess, is somebody's going to roll on somebody else. I think from what I've heard, the mother seems to be the more aggressive person in the matter, but we'll see how it plays out.
Exactly. Excellent insight from you both. As per usual, Rick Grundy, Randy Kessler, thank you both so much.